Welcome to Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. I am your host, Corey Nathan. This is where we get to speak to the brilliant and creative people who make the greatest coming attractions, movie posters, and digital campaigns of all time. This program is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards and by Soundstripe, the best royalty-free music for video, ads, and film. And today, I am so pleased to be joined by my friend, Lenny Jones. Lenny Jones is the founder, mixer, and sound designer for 2496 Sound and Music Library. This creative music and sound library boasts credits on over 190 feature film campaigns. Lenny is also a film sound and mixing teacher at the New York Film Academy, Burbank. Lenny, it's so good to be with you, man. How you doing?
Great, Corey. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure. I'm a huge fan of your show. I've been listening for many years.
It was really cool. We connected not too long ago. Actually, it was at the Golden Trailer Awards, wasn't it?
Yes, outside.
Last spring. And we hung out in the line. We both got there a little bit early. And I mean, we've seen each other around, but it was really great to get to know you a little bit better, killing time outside in downtown LA.
Yeah, that's the best line to be in for the Golden Trailer Awards.
So I didn't realize, I was doing a little bit of prep, and I didn't realize, maybe you mentioned it to me before, but you went to Ball State?
Yes, I went to Ball State, came out here on an internship in like 92 or so, and a few people followed behind me. Steve Pollard, obviously Workshop Creative, that he was one of our biggest alumni from there, and a few other people, I believe, as
Jim
well.
Hale. Jim Hale came before.
Jim Hale?
Steve.
That's right.
Yeah. Rich tradition. So did you grow up in Indiana?
Yes, Hoosier by birth, and went to Ball State, and then they had this amazing internship teacher who sent a bunch of us out to Los Angeles. Good luck, and here you go. And and some of us stuck. It stuck. A few of us are still here.
So when you were in school, there were already people out here? Did Jim precede you, or?
Oh, yes, by a few years, yeah.
Okay.
There was quite a few. This has been going on about 10 years. They have been sending at least, not just LA, but Atlanta, Chicago. They kind of specialize in more advertising.
Yeah.
They had a film program growing and television, so they sent interns all over the country. It was an amazing program. It still is.
That's great. And did you have a sense that you were going into post-production or sound or the direction that you ended up going in, or did that happen sort of organically over the first few years?
I found music engineering in high school. I was just lucky to have an amazing teacher. They set up a music engineering class, and I played a little bit too as a drummer and keyboardist, but I was so much better behind the scenes. The other musicians would call me to fix their equipment all the time. So I thought I came out to LA to be in the music scene, a recording engineer, but I liked film. I love trailers. I love film. I love the posters and the one sheets, and I really kind of gravitated toward post sound. I just found it was a little more solid working environment, better hours in it, that kind of thing.
All right. So since you bring up sound, we're going to talk a lot about this, but I can't help but ask, some folks will be watching at least clips of this, but hopefully some folks will be watching the whole thing. But for those who are just listening, I'm looking at Lenny's background there. Blankets and tie-dye-esque, vibe. How did you, what's that all about? Tell me a little bit about where you're sitting.
This is kind of my home studio, which is we're trying to get a upgrade to a tiki studio, but it's sort of a creative space, and I do a little side thing. I do neon art, and so some of my sculptures are kind of around me a little bit, but I have my Avatar poster in the back and a Marvel concert that I went to at Hollywood Bowl. So I try to make a space that is very much live, but using my own artwork when I can. I think it's just more fun to have, a space that kind of grows as the industry grows, but it's also scalable. I can, move things in and out as I need to.
So first of all, I didn't know about the sculpting thing. Tell me more about that.
I just, we had spent a lot of time, heard about this weird thing called Burning Man, and ended up going many years and discovered light art, which is sort of like a opposite of sound. I was kind of describing, combining light and sound a little bit, and I thought it was interesting. So that became one of my hobbies, and it still is a little bit. When I have time from sound, I'll do a little bit of light art as well. We were selling at the place called The Brewery downtown Los Angeles. We used to have art shows down there quite often.
That's pretty cool. Have you been? Is that something that you were doing even as a kid, or did you learn it in college, or?
No, I picked it up out here. I really, just at Burning Man, I got to see this technology, these amazing neon string lights that people have been using. And I thought, well, interesting to make some artwork out of that. Did a lot of Japanese. My family spent some time in Japan, and I make kimonos, large kimonos that are lighted. They have a large geisha or samurai on the back of each kimono.
Yeah. And before I move on from your backdrop, this is an ignorant question, but what do the blankets do? You're a sound guy, so what do the blankets do in your room?
Just muffling, just kind of keep the noise down. When I'm using, especially when I'm using in trailers, I have a lot of low end sound effects, and it gets through the walls really quickly. My wife will complain, "Can you turn it down? Can you turn it down?" So it helps just quiet the room, isolation for the room, so I can hear things as they're going to hear on the mix stage or at the theaters.
So I have to ask, I'm kind of putting you on the spot. You've heard this podcast and have an expert's ear. Are the books in my background essentially doing what the blankets are doing in your background, or do I need to adjust my room for better sound?
Yeah, it all helps. So anything kind of soft behind you helps with reflections, not just escaping the room for your family might get upset, but it actually helps quiet your room down. Especially for podcasts, you want to have it's not dead. You want to have some liveliness to it. It makes the room more interesting. But having books in there is a good way. The window on your side there is difficult to deal with because of the glass, but it looks like you only have one. So that's definitely a workable room for podcasts. I'm sure it works really quite well for you.
I hope so. I'm about 500 to 1,000 episodes in. So. although maybe I should run all of the past episodes through a guy like you to really perfect the sound.
From what I've heard, you're doing a great job. I wouldn't change much.
Oh, thanks, man.
Doing excellent.
So fast forward to SSI. You had a really good run at SSI. How did you get started there, and what were your initial jobs when you first got there?
I was assistant there for many years, and I sort of created their sound design department. They didn't have any; they were just doing mixing, and it's still kind of their focus there. But they needed somebody to editorial. The trailers would come in; they'd be kind of messy, and I go in and kind of clean up the music and the dialogue and kind of get it off. And then when changes would come in, I would come in and just upgrade and improve the trailers. So when I pass it off to the mixers, then they have much smoother experience. Things would go faster at the mix stage.
Now, a lot of folks who are listening are in the industry, so they know what you're talking about. But for the folks back in Indiana, in my case, back in New York and New Jersey, when you say mixing, what are we talking about?
Well, they want to make sure the first job of a mixer is make sure we can hear all the dialogue, that the story that the trailer or the film is trying to teach is audible. We understand what's going on. Also, then we have the music and the sound effects. All this stuff has to be balanced, so I can you make a decision shot by shot, what is the most important thing in each shot? And a mixer is the person who's kind of making sure that everything can be heard, but still dialogue. We complain to go to the movies or watch TV, we have to have subtitles on. It's pretty annoying. I talk to my students about this a lot. Why do we need subtitles so much? Because the mix or our environment is just not conducive to understanding the dialogue anymore like we used to.
Yeah. So going back to SSI, you started there, you were an assistant for a long time. So on the professional trajectory level, were there things that you were doing to advance your career, but also as a practitioner, were you taking active steps to learn new things along the way? So professionally, as well as your practice as an artist.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm always, Pro Tools is in front of me, that's my main toy. And I've always been a Pro Tools geek, as I called myself. And I would always be learning the new technology and going to the conventions and everything. And I found I put the technology before the people, which was a mistake. Overall, I think because now at this point I have to be, I didn't connect with that person like in a good way that I need to, like what you do. So balancing the technology and connecting with people is important. So that's one of the things I've learned there, and also moving on from there is just having that balance between the technology and the people.
Has there
skills.
been, and you've been, that's a really good point. So people before technology, even, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but AI is really blowing a lot of people's minds. But you've seen a lot of technological changes. Have there been certain changes that were more profound than others?
Yeah, I say surround sound was always a big one. Dolby Atmos has been huge for theaters with regards to surround sound. The internet, obviously, we don't have to have mag machines, film machines, or 24-track machines. It's all nonlinear, so it can pass from studio to studio rather quickly. And now I have on this computer in front of me, I have about 900,000 sound effects that I can pull from very quickly. And I have the technology, a program called SoundMiner, which can find things just rapidly. Any kind of dog, any kind of bird, anything can be discovered. So those technologies has just made our job so much easier and faster. We can move faster when we need to.
Lots of questions just in that answer. So first of all, I'm thinking of Lenny as the young assistant, just starting out. If I'm placing my timeline correctly, that was right about the time. Now, I don't know how much this affected you, but I would imagine the technology if it wasn't exactly the same, it was at least similar, right around the same time that Avid was replacing some of the, what would you call it, online versus offline or offline versus online systems?
Right. They were editing on 3/4-inch tape, video, A/B roll 3/4-inch tape when the Avid came in and took that over. Yeah.
So I'm thinking of you as an assistant. I would imagine that there are certain assistants that must have been getting nervous that the technology would have rendered their jobs moot, right?
Oh, yeah. Always. It's really important for us. Even today, I have to spend 10, 20 minutes to learn a new technology that's come in. And it's important for all of us to do that, to stay current so I can actually stay ahead of the curve a little, which is why I go to the NAB conference or CES or AES. Any of those conferences I'll go to and spend some time talking to them about what's coming. I love that. And I give that to my students. Like, what's coming is very important. You need to be ahead of it. You need to know if you want to work, let's see what's coming next.
I haven't been to NAB in years, but I think it's time. That's the one in January. It had been in Vegas a few years. I don't know if it's that.
It's Vegas in April.
Yeah, April. Okay. But yeah, definitely worth visiting again just to see where the technology has come. Plus, if I remember that convention correctly, the ones that I really enjoyed were the ones that leaned into panel discussions, not just trade show floor.
Yeah.
So that one and NatB was another one where there were some really good like panel discussions and stuff. But I asked the question about the technology when you were an assistant, because I would imagine that there's a lot of folks now, not just assistants, but at all levels, that are really worried about this technological revolution in terms of being replaced by technology. What are some of the things that you did? So one thing you already said was staying on top of the technology. Are there other things that you did to stay ahead of it and because at the end of the day, you can't replace humans, no matter how good AI gets in this instance. But I'm sure, at the time when Avid was coming in, for example, we were thinking, oh man, they're not going to need assistant editors anymore. So what were some of the other things that you did to make sure that you were part of the process, an irreplaceable human part of the process?
I made sure that I made it to the conventions. As I mentioned, magazine subscriptions, those were big at the time. I still think they're important. Reading all the current issues. And I find the Facebook a little bit old for the older folks who are still on Facebook. The Facebook groups have been extraordinary for technology, for specific programs. You can go and ask questions and see how people are dealing with this. Like Dolby Atmos is a difficult program to use for mixing. And there's people there who are experts, are using it every day, can answer your questions. And that's something we didn't have 20 years ago. So the forums, the tech forums, especially right now, I didn't have then, but I would find them eventually are a key, a very essential part of growing as an artist and as an engineer.
Are you, I'm big on Substack these days. Are you following any Substacks?
I haven't. No, I was on it a while back and there's so many of them. It's hard to keep up with all of them, but yeah, I'd like to see that.
I've mentioned this one before. I'm looking it up as we speak. I've mentioned this one before on the show. Greg Harrison has one. Greg Harrison is a CCO, I think, at Motion. It's called Future of Creativity. Has regular posts. Last one came out on October 6th. But a lot of how AI integrates with technology, how we can deploy AI as creatives, and especially he's both a filmmaker, but he's also 25 years or so in the trailer industry specifically. So I find his Substack, Future of Creativity on Substack. Anyway,
okay.
He's not paying me or anything. So
he should be.
Yeah, he should be. No, I'm just kidding. He does a great job, but that's definitely one. But Substack for me, I'm finding that there are several pages I follow for same reasons, to your point, that I was active in certain Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups. LinkedIn is another one. Are there any on LinkedIn that you're following?
I think there's a couple. I can't remember offhand, but yeah, that's another essential site to be visiting it every day for social and see who's doing what. Yeah. Use it quite a bit.
You're very active on LinkedIn. Some of your posts, man, it's one of the reasons I asked you to be on the program, because I was watching some of the pieces that you were dropping, and having spoken to you, I'm imagining what your participation is in some of those pieces without even reading the narrative along with it, because you're a pretty humble guy, so you don't like, oh, I did this and wasn't I great, and you're not that way. So Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by Soundstripe. So if you're an editor, a producer, a creative exec, a music supervisor, or even a podcaster like me, if you're a content creator of all stripes, if you will, and you're looking for the perfect library of music and sound effects, check out Soundstripe. With over 10,000 high-quality tracks, including music from Grammy-winning artists, Soundstripe makes music licensing hassle-free. Believe me, I've tried it. I've been on there. I've navigated around. It was really terrific. It was really easy to use. So with a simple subscription, you get unlimited access to a vast catalog, downloadable stems for creative flexibility, and AI song editing to customize tracks effortlessly. Plus, their seamless integration with Premiere, which is what most of my editor friends are on. It means a smoother editing experience. If you're ready to level up your production game with properly licensed, high-quality music and sound effects, head over to soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and save 10% with code TRAILERGEEKS. That's soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and code TRAILERGEEKS. I wanted to go back one more thing about SSI. You did have a good run there. What were some of the habits that you imbued over the years? Because you came out the other side ready to start your own. Maybe you didn't feel like you were ready, but clearly you've had 2496 now for about 15 years. My math is right.
Yeah.
Something has been going right. So your stint at SSI, you did some things to be ready to have a long-standing company on your own. What were some of those things that you recall having done?
Yeah, SSI is one of the top trailer mixing shops in the world. They mix a lot of trailers, more than you'd expect. And it's a little bit in the trenches. I was doing, in a week, I'd probably work on 9-10 trailers, sometimes having to clean them up, and a quick turnaround, come in late, has to be ready by 9 a.m. So learning to do quick work, but also learning to slow down sometimes when things need to be checked and double checked and triple checked. That's difficult when you have that pace. But that's one thing that I've learned, that when something's going to a client, you need to make sure it's right, and then double check and make sure it's right again. That's probably the best thing that I learned from there.
So, I mean, dealing with clients, whether they were in the room with you or knowing that they ultimately were going to have eyes on it, and knowing that others, you were part of a team and were accountable to a whole team, let alone having, it sounds like having that desire to have a really great finished product.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just amazing products. I love film trailers, and I also worked on shows there as well, long form shows, but you get to work on so many amazing projects and get to see, things in the works that are changing as a trailer evolves from version 20 to 30 to 40 to 50, whatever. It's fun to see how the creative changes are made along the way.
And what prompted you to start that? That's a big leap to start your own company.
Yeah. I had been recording since a kid. I've always been kind of fascinated. I started doing recordings of myself. And I started recording some ambience around Los Angeles, and then my twins were born. So I recorded them from day 2 till about 3 years old. Okay. Almost every sound, every little noise they would make, I'd have the bottle here and the microphone here, and I record their sounds. I did miss one. I missed their very first sound when they were born. And I think about it every day. I regret missing that sound, because it was such an extraordinary, gurgling sound to a cry, that one sound you miss. But I published them, and they make money, and that's part of their college funds, their sounds that they made. Yeah. So I was recording, and I started publishing a little bit, and it just kind of grew from there. Yeah. I realized it was something I could take off and be on my own with.
And 2496, was that the first address, or where does that come from?
That's basically high quality audio, 24-bit, 96K kilohertz. It's still considered to be high quality audio. I kind of liked it. And also, if you look at me on a list, I'm alphabetical, so I'll be at the top of the list. So those two things combined is why I chose it, something to be unusual with it. Yeah.
That's pretty sharp. I like that. I just learned something. 24-bit, 96 hertz?
Kilohertz.
K, 96.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically the sample rate, how big your audio file is. Yeah.
And then you also got into teaching. Is that something recent, or have you been teaching for a while?
It's something I've always wanted to do if I had the time. I had some amazing teachers at Ball State. Dr. Cleve Scott was one of them who kind of took me under his wing a little bit. And I always like, if I have the time, I'm going to come back and do this. And then about 3 years ago, I had some time between publishing at SSI, and there was an opportunity in New York Film Academy. And that was extraordinary. Most of their students, they want to direct, they want to produce, they want to write. That's kind of their thing. They don't really want to do sound. But it's interesting to come into them and say, hey, if you don't do it or don't do it right, you're going to have to hire somebody like me to fix it. So let's talk about it. And we go a deep dive into film sound history, current films, and inspire them to think about sound in new ways and how their films could be better if they think about it that way.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have a sense, was there a specific specialty that you wanted to zero in on when you started the company and then kind of expanded your basket of services? Or was this the vision from the get-go, what you're currently doing?
For me, it was just going to be sound effects and sound design. And then I started getting placements in trailers, and then I had a vendor say, oh, you have music too? I was like, oops, I don't. I used to write music, but not good enough for Hollywood. So I kind of put some feelers out, and then I'm starting representing composers now all over the globe, which is really extraordinary. There's so amazing creativity. I send out a brief to them once a month, say, hey, let's make a rock and roll album, or let's make a hip hop album. And the stuff that comes back to me is just like, wow, the sound. I have one from Finland, especially. They're doing heavy metal in Finland. Finland has kind of taken our heavy metal, American heavy metal, and turned it into something really unique. It's really authentic, specifically Finland sound, and we published some of their albums. They're really quite extraordinary work.
I'm going to have to listen to that because I know that ABBA isn't Finland, but they're Norwegian.
Right. I'm
imagining like, if ABBA and Black Sabbath had a baby.
Yes, a little bit of that. They really are. It's fun to hear those cultures. When somebody brings you something from another culture, China or Finland or wherever, and you're like, wow, I've never heard this sound before.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So speaking of the work, all right, let me see if this works. I'm going to try to share my my thing, and hopefully listeners will hear what I want them to hear. So this piece. You can hear that, right, Lenny?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to pause it real quick. So hopefully listeners hear the underlying music. It's the piece that Lenny did in collaboration with Jax, really great boutique trailer company. They did it for FX. It was the Dave launch spot for FX. And there's music going, but also... So were you involved in picking the music, or was the music already licensed?
Yeah, so the music was already in place. They were just asking for sound design, filling in and just making it much, much larger for the spot, which is what we did, multiple versions.
But there's all kinds of sounds here, and I'm imagining that you're either creating those sounds or enhancing those sounds, like a car door opening, an old lady screaming, the noises from the art. Is that an aardvark or an anteater?
Yeah, that's from the show. Yeah, that's his anteater, yes.
Yeah. Oh, and tire screeching. Oh, and even like enhanced fruit in the air with some... Oh, God. And crashes. Oh, and the head on...
Good fun, yep.
Oh, man. All right. So, hopefully listeners, hopefully my experiment worked and listeners heard some of that. But that was the Dave piece from FX. So share with me, was I right when I was calling that out, those sounds, enhancements? What were you creating from scratch? What were you enhancing? Tell me about that. How were you collaborating with Jax and the other, the clients? Tell me about the whole process.
Yeah, that was amazing. Their editor, I'm sorry I forgot his name, but they were doing an extraordinary work on it. They just needed some augmentation. They have some of the effects in place in the screams, but they really wanted to beef it up. They wanted to make it Hollywood style trailer, which is what I do a lot of. And all the screeches and the crashes and whooshes and all that stuff needed to go in. And I had all that stuff available. I think I recorded a couple things, some Foley elements of the walking a little bit. But the rest of it was from library. They were in a hurry. They didn't have a lot of time for it. So it's just about making it as big as possible and just making sure it matches their vision, what they were looking for.
So you're creating a lot of those ancillary sounds from scratch or from your library. You're pulling it from your library, and then you're customizing them to fit what's happening in the action.
Yes.
Oh, that is so interesting. I didn't realize so speaking of sculpting, you're really sculpting to the visuals.
Yes, absolutely. You always need to do that. But also keeping in mind, what is the music doing? What will be the dialogue if there's going to be loud dialogue? But music especially is such a powerful music-driven piece that the sound design has to weave in and out of the music.
Now, I would imagine, too, I saw that there were a few pieces that you did with my buddies over at AV Squad. They are so, they have such, not just great taste, but a lot of them either come from music or are musicians. Like Steve Pollard is a musician. I would imagine that that's a whole other level of collaboration. Does that make it more challenging for you, or just a lot more fun when you're working with a fellow musician?
Oh, more fun, because then they're expecting us to be musicians as well. It's nice that I was a drummer. I had that background. I can think in syncopation. Let's get everything in time. So the sound effect might actually be a little bit out of sync, but it matches the music. A lot of will make creative choices like that, which make the spot even better.
Yeah, yeah. One of the other pieces I really enjoyed was the Logan Lucky trailer that you did.
Yeah.
So one of the things I was curious about there was, again, like how much were you getting a base level sound from the movie itself, or were there certain sounds that you were kind of creating from scratch based on what they were choosing for the shots in the trailer?
Yeah, that trailer market has changed quite a bit. In the old days, they would need a lot more sound effects support. Perhaps they would send me the trailer and I would cut sounds into the trailer in sync. That doesn't happen as much as more because the picture editors have sound effects on board at their shops. So they will try to do that, and if they get stuck, they need help, then they'll email us or call us, can you give us this file or just this sound, and then they'll stick it in, and hopefully that works. So that's changed a little bit, but it's nice to be augmenting a scene, especially car chases. They're difficult to cut, and you need somebody who's done trailers. I did the World's Scariest Car Chases show, if you remember that from the back of the way. I did that for about 5 or 6 years. So having a car chase sounds, that mentality, I understand the pacing and the tempo of those kind of scenes.
You're reminding me of a conversation I had with Doug Brandt. I don't know if he was the first one to do this, but he's also a musician in addition to being just one of the best trailer editors of all time and producer, creative director, of course. But he was describing, was it him or somebody describing his work, where there was one of the shots in a trailer that he was working on was a slap to the face. But instead of enhancing the slap to the face and that natural sound, he replaced it with something altogether different because of the style of the trailer that they were doing. Like it was a whoosh or it was I don't know. They just replaced it with a completely different sound than what you would normally hear slap to the face. I would imagine working with somebody like Doug and doing stuff like that is a ton of fun as well.
Yeah, when you have somebody with a very strong vision, and if you can vibe with them, if you can understand it and meet them and walk with them for a little while, then it's fun to be able to create something, collaborate, especially that Jack's piece was like that, where it was just fun collaboration, throwing it back and forth.
One other piece I was really curious about was that Travis Barker movietickets.com piece.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That must have been a blast, man.
Yeah, that was so much fun. AV Squad, I believe, on that. I forgot the editor, but the camera work is just extraordinary. And Travis, is Travis. You're not going to, you got him as your background music. You're halfway there already. So man. It's fun pieces like that. Yeah.
How in the weeds did you have to get? Because obviously he's creating percussion for you. It's like it's what drives the piece. But did you have to enhance the sound, or did he pretty much lay it down for you as is?
Right. The music was already pretty much all in place, and then the mixer would actually balance all of that out. And I was providing the transition sound effects to get from one scene to the other. That was kind of my job on that one.
That's pretty cool. It's still pretty cool, like being able to like that somebody as virtuoso, as much of a virtuoso as Travis Barker is as a
Yep.
percussionist.
Yep.
Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards. For folks who are just starting to get plugged in, the GTAs is an unconventional ceremony that honors excellence in feature film trailers, teasers, and movie marketing. Or as some folks like to think of it, it's the award ceremony for the short attention span. We all just celebrated the 25th Golden Trailer Awards. So would that be the Silver Golden Trailer Awards? Either way, it was a terrific show. Monica and Evie do such a wonderful job putting it together. Tons of fun, so much awesome work across the board. And mostly it was just great to be together as a community. So keep an eye out for a number of exciting developments over the next year. Just make sure to stay plugged in at goldentrailer.com for a ton of exciting developments. That's goldentrailer.com. One of the other things I was really curious about is you work with a diversity of companies. So how different is it working directly with studios or networks versus trailer shops? How different is it working with trailer shops versus, say, commercial editorial companies or commercial production companies or brands directly? It must be a very different kind of process.
Yeah. For the studio specifically, I don't hear from, they basically contact us about billing and if they're using some of our effects in a trailer, then we'll hear from them and then we'll go from there. But most of my contact would be with the trailer houses. If they need something specific, a specific sound, then we can provide for them. So trailers to commercials to for shows, they would give us this show and we would edit the entire show. Where the trailer companies have security that they have to, security protocols, are not allowed to send their trailer out to me usually without authorization, but we have like security here, which we cover, making sure that we're a secure network, a TPN shield we have here, which is MPAA security, which allows us to work on higher end projects and actually have a picture source here, to making sure that they're confident that we'll do the work and it's keeping their material safe.
Yeah. When I first started my career, I was working with both commercial editorial companies as well as trailer shops. And there was one, it was actually the predecessor to what's now Ignition Creative, called Harley's House. They had both a commercial editorial division as well as a trailer division. And it was remarkable how different they were. One would think that a really good editor translates to either one. But because the process is so different, part of it is just because I think commercial directors have storyboarded very, very specifically what their final product is going to be, whereas trailer editors, trailer creative directors, producers are kind of like more like the commercial production company in that they're taking the footage. They're taking the footage and then creating something brand new out of that. So if anything, I guess they're more like a documentary filmmaker in that they're distilling a whole bunch of content and creating something new from all of it. Have you noticed some of those same differences?
Yeah, I'd say in trailer world, it feels like the editor is sort of the king. They're the creative force behind it. And of course, they have producers behind them, pushing them and helping them out. In the commercial market, it's more the director of the spot that may have more creative control, and you're dealing directly with them. So those two markets are interesting, how their vibe and how they work with composers and with sound designers. So it's fun to be able to do both and jumping back and forth between both worlds.
I can hear all of my buddies who are trailer editors screaming at their computer or their phone right now. If I'm the king, the editor is king. I don't feel like a king. Although some people, it's good to be the king,
Yeah.
But speaking of which, that has evolved the role of an editor and some of the challenges, not just of editors but agencies in general, and the overall way that campaigns have been going. I was curious for you, whether it's just the last 5 years since COVID or the last couple of years with budgets changing and stuff like that. How have you been holding up? Well, first of all, what are some of the biggest changes that you've had to adapt to over the last few years? And also, how are you holding up?
We're doing well. It's nice to have a diversification. I do shows, independent features, and then I have the library working on that. And then I teach as well. So it's nice to have sort of 3 venues I can jump back and forth, and whichever is the biggest of the week, then that's where my focus goes. But it's difficult times, absolutely. COVID, and then the streaming bubble, and, Trump and AI, all this stuff coming. I talked to my students about this at the end of class. I was like, let's talk about what's coming, and when we have the time, we work on our skills. We just work on our people skills. Let's go to conventions and to whatever we can go to talk to people, but also the creative, the technical skills, what's coming, the new technologies, the new upgrades on the software, that kind of thing. So that keeps me going. I love it. I just still love this, being part of it. Any little part, even if I can get a scrap from that trailer or a scrap from that trailer, I love being a part of theatrical trailers because they're so fun, and everybody loves to see them when they come out. It's like, to watching the hits go way up when a big trailer drops, something like that. It's fun.
Yeah, yeah. No, to your point, you're a man of your word. I remember running into you at VidCon, the one in Anaheim?
Yeah, VidCon. We were running a booth at VidCon. Yeah.
And I mean, to your point, I got a lot out of that. It was the first time I went to that particular conference, but literally just this last Friday, I got together. First of all, there's a data guy who has been working with me and helping me understand what's working in these podcasts, not just this one, but the other ones I produce. I made some other great relationships there. I was at a dinner on Friday, and there were about, I think, 14 or 15 of us that just kind of got together. It was two of the people there. It was their prompting, but it was a direct result from us meeting each other at VidCon and specifically wanting to follow up and continue to talk through ideas that we were working through at that conference. So it's the relationships, it's new ideas, it's technology. Mm-hmm. It really is so edifying on so many levels. What are there some conferences coming up in the next few months that you have your eye on?
Let's see. What are we doing next? I'm actually going to Las Vegas for The Wizard of Oz. Is playing at the Sphere. They've taken The Wizard of Oz and turned it into this multi-sensory experience. Wind, and that's probably most excited about technology-wise, because I'm so amazed at what's coming. The Sphere in Vegas, this Cosm in West LA, these spherical domes, getting people back to theaters. It's fun to see how we're doing it, how the technology is pulling people back from their phones. Put their phones down. Let's actually go have an experience. Let's see. NAB, of course, is a big one. And the award shows have been good. Guild of Music Supervisors award show is great. The Music Motion Picture Sound Editors one is really, really great. Just networking and learning, talking to people. And I've been not good at it. I'm a Pro Tools geek. I don't want to talk to people, but I need to get out, especially for my library. It's so critical to get yourself out and meet the new people and see what's coming up and what they need.
Yeah. We do have Clio's coming up in November. And one thing I do want to shout out, there is a dinner. A lot of folks in the industry are very involved in a place called Home. There is a fundraising dinner on the 23rd. So this is coming out next week. Yeah. So this will come out about a week before that dinner. If you haven't looked it up, definitely check it out. What?
That's a great organization.
While we're talking about it, and our buddy Brett Wynn is being honored this year, apch.org. I think that's what it is. Let's see. Hopefully that's what it is. Or is it a place called Home? Yep, that's what it is, apch.org. So give that a gander, and if you're not already signed up to get a seat there, definitely consider it. And if you're not available that night, maybe consider making a donation. That's a free PSA. They didn't even... Yeah. But I just got Barbara's email this morning, and I saw Brett was being honored, so it was just on my mind. But that's definitely another place to, it's really important to stay, to be together, especially for good causes like that. So
yeah, that's one of the best. That's a great cause, especially for Los Angeles. So we need the help with the housing and homeless, people. Yeah. It's a difficult thing. Every city grapples with it, but especially Los Angeles,
Now, we touched on this a little bit. But I really wanted to bend your ear about AI. Are there ways that I'm sure there are already ways that you're incorporating AI into your work. If so, how so? And where do you see this all going?
Yeah, I've kind of gone both ways. I've been against AI and and I'm for AI. I've been on both sides of the fence, and I've talked to a lot of people. It's really important to talk to people about how they're using it. Is it helping them, or is it actually taking work away from us? ChatGPT is an extraordinary program. I was going to talk to with my students how it can be done and used in so many different ways. I use it for metadata. I use it for track titles, for publishing. I used it to redesign my website. I didn't know it could do that. I had a website problem. I asked it to go look, and it told me exactly what was wrong with it. So it's sort of like Jarvis from Iron Man. If you know that Iron Man has the digital assistant in the background kind of feeding him information, and it was like that. I was like, wow, I love this interaction. But on the other side, you have maybe there's music services like I think Suno, where you can put in a music cue or describe a music cue, and it'll output a piece of music for you. Those kind of bother me because you're putting a composer out of work. I mean, it's one for a temp mix, or I need a quick song temporary, and then I'm going to go hire a composer later. There's so many, the talents of the composers, their skills, it's just irreplaceable, I really think. And finding a balance between those two, where I'm using a little AI to get me what I need, and then use a composer to actually take it all the way home. Having that kind of balance is important.
Somehow, maybe this is just me, but I can tell a difference between pure content that is created with too much dependency on AI. The example I was using, I don't know if I've shared this on the program before, but I watch a lot of baseball documentaries. So every once in a while, I'll come up against the way the AI generated narrators describe stats, like ERA instead of ERA for pitchers, a key stat for pitchers. But I'll come up against it where you could tell it's AI. Now, you could produce certain content and get to a certain point, but the way Greg Harrison was describing it was human in and human out. And that's how I've been using different AI tools. So for example, just this morning, I was prepping an essay for the politics program I'm involved with. And I wrote an entire draft just without any AI or anything. I've been studying George Washington's farewell address, and it sort of inspired this draft. And then I fed the draft into ChatGPT, but I didn't say improve this. I had very specific questions of what I was looking for. And I felt that was a good use of AI in that instance. It helped me, it basically did some research for me. I asked specific questions about phrasing that I was using. So in a way, it was like my thesaurus. So there's specific uses, but like I said, the way that Greg Harrison put it was human in and human out. So I fed it information, I fed it specific questions, and then what it spit out, I was still curating it and editing it before I put anything up. And I think a lot can be said about that, whether it's sound or artwork, comps that you're creating. Is that kind of where you're at with it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an amazing helper tool as long as you use it for that way. I think I'm looking ahead a little bit, and I see this is a bit of a bubble. The amount of money that's been shoved into that industry of AI, that I don't think they're getting the rewards, the returns that they thought they were on this technology. So I think there's going to be a bit of a correction coming this year or next year with regards to technology, the amount of money they're dumping into AI, and we'll see. But I think that's going to change things too. I think for composers who are concerned about losing their job to a music AI, I think that will give them a bit of relief, knowing that it has a balance. There's only so high it can go before, if it's not making a profit, then it's going to come back down. And back
that's
to
interesting.
Again. Yeah,
that's interesting. So you are not quite bearish, but you believe that there's going to be generally pumping the brakes on this what might be considered a bubble. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think Wall Street necessarily listening to the artists, but they'll listen to their shareholders when they're not making money. A company like an Adobe or Google or Amazon, they're all using it. It's improving their platforms, but they may not be getting the return back they thought they were for, replacing human beings.
Yeah. What other types of changes do you see over the horizon?
Well, I mean, they're kind of, it still feels like they're shoving it down our throats a little bit. My phone has it. My Photoshop has it. It's up to us to kind of learn, okay, they're ahead of us a little bit for the technology. But just being that digital assistant in my car, can you get me movie tickets for the 3:00 show? Or what's the best way to get here? Or my website's broken. Can you take a look and see what's wrong with it? Those tools are going to be great. That's the future, I believe, where they just kind of make it invisible. My refrigerator can recommend things. Hey, you're out of milk. It'll tell me that in the morning. Okay, I'll go get that, or it can order it for me, even better. I think they'll just start each industry, each gadget we have will slowly have more and more of it, and just making it so it's usable for us and not being so intrusive into our lives.
Yeah, never would have imagined.
Yep.
Maybe it's because I got gray hair and I can remember certain presidents.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some fun questions, and we'll start to bring this thing home. Favorite either trailer, teaser, movie poster, digital campaign, not necessarily that maybe you worked on it, maybe not, but just one of your favorite trailers or movie posters or any piece of creative advertising of all time.
Yeah, I love so many trailers. There was one a couple years ago, the film Judas and the Black Messiah. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who did I don't know the shop, but the way they music and the way they're using the chanting of the crowds, the leads. I just love the pacing of that trailer. It's just a really, really
I am a revolutionary, film. Right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
I love the energy of it. It really gets you pumped up and going, want to see this movie. I want to, know more about this guy, this true story about this, revolutionary. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely pulls me in. That definitely got me watching that movie. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Anything else come to mind?
Key art poster. I'm loving the TRON campaign right now. The TRON film, the key art they're doing for TRON is really extraordinary. I love because now they do an IMAX poster, they do a regular release poster, then maybe do a streaming poster. So you get like three ways, 3 different takes on the film. So that's kind of for posters. That's kind of, I love key art. I would have my walls covered with key art if I could, because they're so much fun. I don't know, I could never do one myself. I am a Photoshop geek, but never could pull that off. But some great posters coming out.
All right, so I'm gonna ask listeners, because I'm not as up to speed on the posters as I am on the AV side. But if there was a trailer or a poster that was mentioned here in this conversation, and you know who it is, write into me. I'm easy to get a hold of, and let me know who it is, and then I'll do a social post, and we'll give a shout out. Proper props, okay? So
Yep.
Please do write into me and let me know, Corey, what, you idiot? You're supposed to know this stuff. That was so-and-so. So please do write to me and tell me I'm an idiot. Well, you don't have to tell me I'm an idiot, but tell me who did the thing so I could share it on social media. One of the you've been at this for a long time. You've had all kinds of success, and some of the success that I think of is persisting through challenging times. But if you were talking to the version of yourself that's just coming out of Ball State, what are some bits of wisdom that you might impart to not just have a long, successful career, but an enriching, fulfilling career?
Yeah, it's something I actually add to my class. I do a 15-week class of sound design, and I take the last class, and we're going to talk about the future, what's coming, and how to deal with it. And I do talk about the streaming bubble and COVID, and I do talk a little bit about Trump and then AI. And I say the first thing I would recommend to you is starting a company. You should be looking to be an employee of another company, but also creating something that you own yourself. That's one of my key things. Here's your homework: create a company, and here's the steps you need to do to do that. So you always have that on the side. So if I want to go work for Walt Disney, then I can approach them as an employee I want to work, or I can approach them as a vendor. And it gives me 2 opportunities at the same company to get hired there. So that's my big one: is start a company, start your own company that you own, something that you will own. Even if it isn't always successful, maybe you have to put it aside as you're an employee of a company, but doing that. And then really listening to yourself. Mental health is important, taking breaks, understanding your industry, where it's going, and knowing when you are stressed out, when you need to leave, when you need to talk to somebody and get the help we need. Especially these days, we're in a darker time, and that's hard to deal with. Especially the job market is not great right now, especially for people who are coming out of school. So I talk to them about just strategies, but putting people first, especially talking to people, go to these conferences and meet them, and they love people these old editors love meeting the next generation. They really do. And they love giving tips, and they love ask them questions. That's the big thing. Ask these people questions when you meet the top editors, because they love sharing information.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying all that, especially the part about mental health. That's been a big revelation of mine over the last couple of years. And just being able to name it, diagnose it, and then develop a toolbox to stay within healthy ranges has been life-changing, very, very concretely life-changing for me. So I appreciate you saying all that. Do you have any questions for me?
You've had an interesting career where you've done you do this show, but you've also been you would find people jobs. I'm sorry, what's that called?
Headhunting.
Headhunting.
Yeah.
So at Headhunter, you're a little bit of villain for some of these
right.
vendors, but you're also bringing them on the show. I love that, how you managed to do both, or those relationships that you may have had to repair over the time. How did you focus on doing that, getting those relationships to a better place, I guess?
Yeah, it's a good question. And very early in my career, I had some scary moments. And I'm not overstating that, because these are very accomplished people that I was called by, or sometimes I was called by their, henchmen, for lack of a better description. But I always took the meeting if they called me. And in a way, I guess I was lucky, because I always conducted my business in such a way that I abided not just by the legal parameters, but by what I thought were the ethical parameters on the headhunting side. And what I mean by that is there are certain legal parameters. So, for example, if somebody's under contract, you don't break them out of a contract. That's just obvious. There are other technical legal parameters. For example, if you're this didn't apply to me, but if you're an employee at a company and you choose to go off and start your own company, that's great. I applaud entrepreneurialism, but there are enforceable non-competes that one should abide by as well.
Yeah.
Not that you can't, if you've developed relationships with clients, especially in California, folks can't stop you from working in the industry where you've developed an expertise. But there are certain standards and parameters that are enforceable, especially when it comes to recruiting, and especially when it comes to recruiting people that are under contract. So all that to say, I've abided by the legal practices, but also by the ethical practices. And what I mean by that is, from the get-go, there were certain shops that were doing really, really well at the time. I remember calling a lot of people at Trailer Park in the early 2000s, a lot of people at Ant Farm in the early 2000s. And one person after another, from Rod Perry and Andy and Maria and Amanda on down to editors. So one after the other were like, "Oh no, Corey, I'm thanks for calling, but I'm really happy here." And I never saw it as my job to when they were running Ant Farm, that is. They've all gone on to great careers post Ant Farm. But I just remember so many folks that had great jobs, were working for great people, and I didn't see it as my job to convince them otherwise. So when Barbara and Mike called me, I was a lot nervous to go into that first meeting with them, but I could look them in the eye and tell them, "Hey, this is what I did. But to your credit, a lot of your folks are really happy. You're doing a lot of things right. So I can call them all day, every day, but they're not going to, keep doing what you're doing. You're keeping them really happy. They're fulfilled. They're doing great work with great people." And then there were other times too where I did have a little bit more success recruiting from, but then while I wouldn't betray the trust of people who did meet with me that I did end up placing, I could give folks informed critiques, not to be an asshole, but just informed critiques about maybe, "Hey, this is what some of your folks generally are not happy about." Or if somebody left, and sometimes it wasn't necessarily something bad that they were doing. It was just that, "Hey, you guys are really great. You're the best in the business when it comes to comedy, but this person really wanted to pursue action." So it wasn't necessarily something bad, or sometimes it was like a managerial style, and I could give them candid feedback about what I was hearing from folks that worked for them. So I always try to go about it in legal, ethical way, but also to be candid with folks that called me, and I was able to not just forge relationships with, but end up becoming pretty good friends with people, even if I wasn't going to represent their company. Because that's the other thing too, is I kind of kept it where I was never going to represent every company. I was going to represent companies that I could confidently look somebody in the eye and say, hey, this is going to be a great place for you to work because X, Y, and Z. So I don't know. That's probably a longer answer to the question that you wanted, but
no, that's interesting. I'm just that it's always been about people with you, and I greatly admire you. That's skills that I'm needing, and listening to you talk about it, how to do that. That's critical. It is people before technology. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Now, we did cover a lot. Is there anything important that we haven't discussed that you want to add?
No, I think, Scott, we run. I'm a boutique shop. We have some amazing composers all around the world. They work quick. We respond to briefs quickly and do customization. I'm just thrilled to be in this industry. We love meeting new people and watching new trailers. I'm just pinching myself every week to be able to be part of this industry. So we're just grateful to all of our clients and all the people that have trusted us with their work.
And how can folks find you and 2496 online? And, if they want to give you a shout, what's the easiest way to do that?
Yeah, 2496sfx.com is us. We're online, and Facebook and Instagram also. We have sites on each one of those. We're posting all of our current briefs and the stuff we're working on. So yeah, check us out.
Lenny, this was a ton of fun, man. I'm so glad we did that. I'm glad, this year, one of the things I'm thankful for is making new friends. We've known about each other for a long time, but I feel like we've really become pals this year. So I'm really grateful for that, and for having. It's always fun. You're a very affable guy. So
thank you. So I'm working on it.
Yeah. This would be great, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate it.
You bet. And thank you for listening. As always, please rate us and review us wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help us in the rankings, and so other folks who love this work and this industry can find us. Follow us on all the socials. I'm at Corey S. Nathan, at Corey, S as in Sam, Nathan, at Corey S. Nathan on all the socials. And check out our awesome sponsors, the Golden Trailer Awards, and Soundstripe, and 2496. Really grateful to all those folks for helping us keep the lights on. Thank you for joining us. Now go do some inspired work.